Good morning, guys. Happy Controversial Tuesday. This morning, we're going to be discussing agents crossing the line, a post that I did last week that went viral when agents ask about other real estate agents and what we have to say about that this morning. Stay tuned, guys.
Good morning, Liz.
Well. Good morning, Billy. How are you?
I'm good. This went viral, hey, last week.
It did. Yeah, a little post that I decided to do just off the back of something, about a real estate agent who had come into an appraisal. Look, as vendors, I would expect that vendors would have multiple agents come through to appraise their property or their investment. But it's what happens when those agents come through and appraise those properties. And when they ask, oh, and who else are you having through, or who else am I up against? And sometimes that's when it can all go just a little bit pear-shaped. So we thought we're just going to unpack it this morning. Not only did I hear off the back of that post, Billy, from loads of real estate agents, I was bombarded with comments and private messages, but I also heard from vendors. There was one of my vendors who was quite vocal on a post off the back of that. What do you reckon, Billy? On average, like how many real estate agents do you think a vendor calls through to appraise their property on average?
I think 3 is the magic number. So you know, it's the biggest compliment to be invited into someone's home, be asked to provide an appraisal. It's often at the, I think the pinnacle of people's nerves and stress, because it's the interview stage where they're actually having to pick up the phone, sometimes an email or an SMS, but pick up the phone, call someone in, and then sort of wait on anticipation, if they haven't met you before, what the first half an hour is going to be like.
I agree. But it's what happens there, right? And you're right. I love the word that you used, interview, because that's honestly what it is. A vendor is interviewing those agents that they've invited into their home or they've invited to appraise their investment property. And it's what happens in the interview. So my post, guys, for some of you that didn't see it, was talking about agents when they ask what the other agents are that they're up against and who is that any of their business. And why would a real estate agent even ask that? Because, we always live by the ethos that it's really about the client. What is in the best interests of the client? And I don't know that question is in the best interest of the client. In fact, I would put myself out on a limb by saying, I think that's in the best interest of the real estate agent. And I had a really nice real estate agent reach out to me saying, Lisa, I really, thoroughly enjoy the content that you guys put out, but I disagree with you on this situation. And that's fine. Like, everyone's entitled to their opinion. But as a real estate agent, and I asked you the question, Billy, just now before we came on air, I said, have you ever asked that question in a listing presentation? Who are you up against?
Yeah, it doesn't come up that often, so not really, but sometimes the owner just puts it out there. More importantly, I think it's what follows next, because sometimes the question is then asked as a conversation started to start picking the other agents to pieces, and I think that's where things can go wrong, even more so, because it's like, are you trying to sell yourself or are you trying to pull other people down? That for me, as someone who would be sitting in the other chair interviewing, I personally, wouldn't ever think there's value there.
So I just want to say this out straight. Who a vendor chooses to invite into their property is totally their business. And in my opinion, it has absolutely nothing to do with the real estate agent. And I can confidently, hand on my heart, tell you that I've never asked who else I'm up against in a listing presentation. I just truthfully just don't care. And B, it has absolutely nothing to do with me, and it's none of my business who a client chooses to invite to appraise their property. That's the honest to God truth. I had actually I've had multiple vendors mention to me that I'm the only agent that didn't ask, and I've been honest in my response in saying that it's none of my business. Who you choose to invite into your property is purely your business. And then I had a vendor say to me the other day, so Lisa, we've chosen to go with you, and I'm like, thank you so much. I'm very very excited and honoured to be working with you guys. And they said, but just something that another real estate agent said that I want to address with you is that they said XYZ about you. And I said,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's just address that for a moment, because I would expect that they would probably say something like that. They're certainly not going to be selling my services to you. So if they're asking that question, it's not to tell you what an amazing real estate agent I am and that that they should be choosing to go with me. You know, what would they expect that they would say? I would expect that. I would expect that.
Yeah.
So, look, there is no right or wrong way. In my opinion, as I said, I just truly don't believe that it's any of my business, and I think Billy, you feel the same way. Who someone chooses to come in and appraise their property. Can't see any benefit for the vendor.
And all the top trainers say you've got two ears and one mouth. If you use it in that ratio of speaking to listening, you're generally doing all right. The other thing I always try to remind myself is we've been called into the home to answer questions, so not to always ask the question. So I try and just lead the conversation in with what they want to get out of the meeting to begin with. And then, of course, you've got to ask your own questions to, work out what the best strategy is moving forward. But that's the way.
I totally agree. I remember I went to this appraisal once, and it was a dire situation. It was a very very bad divorce, and I had asked if the husband and wife would be able to just come together for half an hour so that I could meet with them both. Anyway, it was quite hostile, and I'm sitting inside their property. And as I went to pull out my listing presentation and go through a few things with them, I looked over and I saw 8 listing presentations from other real estate agents that were sitting on the dining room table. And I asked them, I said, sorry, can I just ask, are they all listing presentations, recent ones from other agents? And they said, yes, they are. I said, okay. And I closed the listing presentation. I said, look, you don't need me to go through this again. I said, may I just ask you what was missing here? What is it that was missing? Why didn't you choose any of those other real estate agents? And what is it that I can help you with?
Yeah.
And their response was exactly that. It's that no one actually asked what they can do for us. What is it that you need out of your real estate agent? And I think sometimes as real estate agents, we can just get a little bit ahead of ourselves and start talking about all the wonderful things that we've done. We've sold this and we've won that award. And they actually stop to pause and actually ask the client, what is it that you need from us? What's
Yeah.
important to you?
And that varies from client to client. So you
Definitely.
can never sort of assume what you're bringing to the table. It's always going to be a bit different.
Absolutely. And look, I've had many a vendor choose me on the fact that I've never asked about who the other agents are that are coming through. And on the flip side, I've had vendors choose me because other real estate agents did ask, and then spent the next 15 minutes dissing the other real estate agents that vendor had opted to have come through their property, and said, do you know what? I'm not going to be using you because I don't like the way you've spoken about the other agents. I don't think it's so, look, as again, there's no right or wrong. I had a lovely agent reach out to me and give me his theory on why he does that. Maybe it's just a better way. They know how to approach certain areas, knowing that, we do a lot of social media, and, maybe that assists them in being able to approach their appraisal a different way. That's a possibility. But, you know, from my perspective, again, I just can't see any value there whatsoever for a vendor in asking that question. I just can't.
Yeah, well, that's you're trying to add value in that short half an hour, 45-minute window you've got. So pack it
Absolutely.
full of good stuff.
And not only that, Billy, like there's so much available online now. We're such a transparent industry. We really are. You know, you can punch in a real estate agent's name and do a digital interview yourself on the real estate agent. You can punch in the agency. You can make sure that everything that real estate agent is telling you about themselves and all the great things that they're going to be able to do to assist in getting your property sold. A lot of that can be verified online. In fact, all of it can.
Yep.
We're such a transparent industry. You know, do the digital interview, jump online, have a look at, you know, domain and realestate.com, have a look at the recent sales, have a look at the reviews. They're all verified, those reviews. You know, they're heavily regulated. So, you know, jump online, as I said, have a look at their social media, see what they're doing, have a look at the social and the digital proof. It's all there.
That's it. I've got no more closing comments.
Bit quiet this morning, Mr. Drury. Can we just have a 2-second chat on what's going on with this real estate market? Because I feel like it's just changed dramatically. It did this 180 in the last probably 5 days.
Yeah, well, I was looking at, on Sunday, I was looking at the real estate stock levels for Northern Beaches. Not the last 5 days, but last 6 weeks. There's 28% more property for sale on the beaches. It's a big jump. It's the
Massive jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? It's unbelievable. So, you know, I look at that and think, okay, this is the time to be getting out and buying. This is the stock that the buyers have been waiting for. They've been waiting, and it just went kaboom. And it's here now. So get out there, guys. Snap up that property. I think it's going to drain very, very quickly. And I saw something that you said yesterday, Billy, and that is that I reckon those stock levels are going to halve. By the time we've gotten to the end of November, I reckon those stock levels are going to halve, and I don't think they're going to get replenished anytime soon. So now's the moment that you've all been waiting for. Get out, buy the property, looking like interest rates are going to come down. That market has definitely heated up. So there you go, all those little red dots, Northern Beaches. Just explain that real quick, Billy.
So that's a map overview of every property live on realestate.com. That was screenshotted on Sunday. 979 properties. That was for the majority of the year sitting between 600 and 700, and then it went bam, like all this stock just dropped on. So yeah, every year seasonally we find that whatever the peak number is at whatever it is in spring, from then to Christmas, it usually halves.
Unbelievable. And that's Northern Beaches.
It's just Northern Beaches, yeah. So that's aggregated all the suburbs. But yeah, nothing excluding just beaches. So you can see a lot of stock sitting in the north of the beaches. And we said yesterday that's normally because it takes a little bit longer to sell through some of those suburbs. And then there's a lot of apartment stock that's come on from Narrabeen through to Manly, and that may have been vendors holding out so their buyers could access the 5% deposit scheme, which came live on the 1st of October. So
absolutely. Hey, Billy, just as we finish off, I just want to say, if you are interviewing 3, 4, 5 agents, whatever it may be, probably one of the big red flags is if you try to contact the real estate agent via phone or on their social media or via email, and they don't respond to you for 2 or 3 days. That is definitely not normal. That should be a massive red flag. Test that real estate agent. See, test them as a buyer. Put through a real estate, inquiry on a property. See how responsive they are on their mobile phone. Send them a text message. Test that real estate agent before you go making your final decision. And I would say there lies the truths right there.
Yeah, absolutely. The buyer experience is not to be underestimated, because that's what
couldn't agree more.
Experience through the listing, through the open.
Couldn't agree more. Guys, have an awesome day. Hopefully this info has helped some of you guys out there. Billy, see you next Tuesday.
Thank you. Take care.